Hi, and welcome to Paul's Magical Life. I'm your host, Paul Burnham. A little while ago, I had the pleasure of having a fantastic conversation with Las Vegas magician Ariann Black. I found it very interesting, and I think you will too. Take a look. Welcome. I'm your host, Paul Burnham. Let's give Ariann a big hand. Yay! First of all, I want to thank you very much for agreeing to do this. We've chatted a little bit on Facebook and doing some, stuff that way, but it's good to really, get to know more about you and do this. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to start out. I don't want to embarrass you, but I want the people to know about some of this stuff that you have. These are great awards. International Magician Society, they do the Merlin Awards, and you've won several years in a row. Oh, there's the awards right there. Okay. Several years that you've been Female Magician of the Year. You've also been awarded Female Magician of the Decade from different things, Magician of the Year, and a lot that goes on and on and on. So I'm going to start with that, not the awards. I mean, everybody knows that you've got the awards and they're great, but first thing I want to talk about a little bit is the women in magic and doing that. And I know that you're really strong towards pushing. Well, pushing might be the wrong word, but helping ladies and women get into the field of magic if they choose to be the magician, instead of an assistant.
Right. It's funny. I have a very strong opinion about that, and so I do get knocked about that all the time because I believe that women can be the magician. I'm living proof of that, and I also believe that there's a huge difference between a woman doing magic and a woman being the assistant. To be the magician, there's so much more you have to know than you do as the assistant. And so people are like, oh no, the assistant and the female magicians are equal. And I'm like, no, we're not. It's like saying a doctor and a nurse is equal. They're not. So, they might have similar knowledge, but the doctor's the one that does surgery and
Right.
I'm the one that does the magic. So I'm the one that picks the costumes and the music and does the lighting and knows the nuances for making the trick a viable trick on stage and putting everything together. And that takes a certain amount of knowledge. But yes, I've been a huge proponent of, if you're an assistant and you want to be a magician, great. I will help you with that. If you're a young girl starting out and you want to be a magician, I will help you with that too. I love encouraging women in this art. I think it's a very feminine art form.
Definitely is. There's a lot in the world of magic that, well, not that they have to do something feminine and beautiful, but there's a lot of that in the field. If they want to do a traditional style, whatever that is nowadays, thing, I don't see anything wrong with that. And if a person wants to be an assistant, I say that's good too. Whatever can help and share the art.
Right. And, here's the thing about assistants. Assistants can make and break the magician.
Yes.
A good assistant can make the magician a star.
Yes.
That assistant can destroy the magician.
You're absolutely 100% right on that one.
So yeah, the assistant really is an integral part of the show, and I don't take that away from my girls at all. I love the girls that I use for my assistants. They're great.
I've had a few different ones over the years, and the one lady who was with me for a lot of years, Teresa, I'd always used to tease her because after the show, she would be in the back doing all the work. putting things away, getting things ready, and I'd be out schmoozing with people and everything, and they like no one even cared, you know. But she was a fantastic assistant, and yes, you're right. She made the show. You know, because you know, of course, we're doing it on a lot smaller scale, so you know, ran the sound, had to make sure everything's there because I use sound effects, do things. I mean, they put in so much work, and yeah, definitely, that's great. And I have a great niece and a great nephew. They're both really big into magic and kids and doing that. And they've moved away now, but when they were over here in Ohio, you know, I was taking them over to the Magic Fest in Columbus, and they really enjoyed the magic and doing that. So I'm hoping that they can stay with that and kind of, you know, go in that direction, or some if they want to. But they seem like they like it and everything. So both of them. So
yeah, magic is fun, whether it's a hobby or profession.
yes.
I will say it is a very hard profession. It's not for the faint of heart.
No, I agree with you. I do it. I love it. I've done it since I was a little kid, but nowhere on a big scale like you've done. I'll be honest. I don't know that I could have ever done something like that because I needed the 9 to 5. I needed to be home. I needed to, you know, do those things. So it's just any entertainer that way and is trying to make a living. It's hard. Not everybody gets the show and gets it the last 15 years, and, you know, and they're good to go. You know, there's a lot of traveling out of doing that. So I really admire people like yourself that get out there and do something that I'm not sure I would have had the guts to do. You know, I'm just being honest. As much
you know,
as
I love the fact that my job affords me international travel. And I do have some travel coming up later this year that I'm very excited about.
Oh, good.
And it's funny, when I was younger, I would go to all these amazing places and I'd do the shows and I'd come home and people would say, "Oh, what did you see?" And I'd be like, the theater. And so now I ask that a couple days be added on at the end of my contract before I fly home so that I can go sightseeing and do things. And because I'm going to all these places, so I might as well see the world.
Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds fantastic. Okay, one more little point I wanted to talk about with the women in the art of magic. I was reading on your webpage, and you had a very nice, I think it was on a blog part, where you were talking about a master magician, and that Lance Burton is the current one that's been handed down through several magicians, and that the ladies and women in magic had gotten together and decided to create their own, and that's you. That's got to be one of the greatest things in the world.
Yeah, there was the website that was put together, and I got a notice from them saying that they decided that you know, that they were giving that to me because they already knew that I did close up and stage and parlor, and I just do everything. And one of the reasons that I do everything is because I have bills to pay.
Yeah, don't we all?
But I love magic so much that I like all aspects of it. And so I like delving into all the different little unique things in magic, whether it's close up or stage. And so, yeah, I was really honored. And it's funny, the site seems to have closed down, but what I want to do is the award that they did send me, I want to eventually start passing that down. Because I think that the more women get together and honor each other, the more we're going to band together. Because I noticed that in magic, we're pitted against each other. And that's one of the things I'm trying to stop. You know, when you go to a magic convention, and or for me, when I go to a magic convention, or I say, "Hey, what other females do you have on the bill?" They're like, "Oh no, it's just you." And I don't understand that. I mean, they have more than one guy on the bill.
Right.
So
right.
There's no reason why they should only have one female. And when they have more than one, they make it like, like a kitschy show, like the female show.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's for most women in magic, that's not what we're about. Um,
Correct.
yeah.
Correct. And it really shouldn't be because um, you're great magicians. I mean, it should just be that you're a great magician and you're on the bill, and that's that. And but as with everything in society, it takes a while to break down those stereotypes and get things going. And you're at the forefront of breaking that down. So I admire that a lot. Hopefully, more free-thinking people will come on and they'll do that as we get more and more lady magicians out there that are very, very good. And we have quite a few out there right now, and hopefully that will continue and do that. And then maybe someday it won't be lady magician, it'll just be magicians.
Magician.
Yeah.
And that's how I see myself. I'm a
yeah,
magician.
well, that's how you should. But I don't blame you for accepting if that's the way to get in the foot in the door and get the job, and you've got to be the only lady on the bill. So
it's funny. I hear that all the time. Oh, you got the job because you're a girl.
Well, I didn't mean it that you got it because you're a girl, but I'm saying if you got it because of that, so what? You still got it,
Right. Well, no, what I tell people when people say that to me is, yes, I might have gotten the job because I'm female, but I kept the job because I'm good.
That is true.
And I have a lot of repeat clients when I do corporates because they know I'm going to come in with a solid, good product. Why?
Yes.
Not because I'm female, but because I'm a good magician.
No. But that's great. And like you said, you've earned that. So no matter what got you in the door, you've earned it, the repeat business and doing that, and it's great that way. Okay, I'm going to switch gears a little bit on you, and
okay.
I'm gonna go clear back to the beginning. I know you probably hate this story. You've told it a million times, but I find it fascinating because you started because a cousin showed you a card trick, and that got you interested. That's exactly what happened with me also. I mean, I loved it. I watched it on TV, but I had a cousin show me a card trick, and boom, you're like hooked, and it goes from there. And then as you got a little older and you wanted to go more into it, your mother took you to a magic shop, and unfortunately, the person there at the shop, since you were female and a little girl, he didn't see you as being a magician, and you had to do that. But luckily for you, there was a gentleman out there, and you want to tell us about the man with the red hair and the red goatee.
Well, you're telling the story much better than
I do.
they
want to see you, not me. I just was leading into it.
So I'd gone to a doctor's appointment, and across the street was a magic shop. And my mother knew that I didn't really like candy, but that I liked magic. So she thought, okay, well, instead of as a treat for going to the doctor, because I had a cold or the flu or whatever it was, she thought, oh, I'll take her to the magic shop and we'll infect everybody there with her cold. And and so we're looking at these magic tricks, and I'm like, I'd never really been in a magic shop before, and I'm like, wow, all these different things. And I saw this rope trick and was fascinated by it and wanted it. And the guy suddenly said, wait a minute, is this trick for your daughter? And my mother said, yeah, of course it is. And he goes, oh, well, magic's for boys, not for little girls. Why don't you buy your daughter a nice doll? And yeah, that did not go over well. So I was just like, even at that age, I was like, fine, I'm leaving. I don't need this. And so we walked out. We walked out of the store. And there was another gentleman there who had, like you said, with red hair and a red goatee. And he followed us out. And it was a professor's nightmare was the trick that we were being shown, which is a great trick.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
And he happened to have it because a lot of magicians have that trick. They carry it with them in their bag or something because it's an easy trick to perform and it's very versatile. So He showed it to us, and then he showed us how it was done. And um, I'm 6 years old, and I'm like, but we need the special ropes. And he said, no. He said, you can do it with hair ribbons, you can do it with rope, you can do it with string, you can do it with anything. And it's like a little light bulb went on my head, and I realized, wait a minute, if I can do that trick with anything, then I can do other tricks with anything. And so that lesson has carried over in my magic, and sticks with me even today when I'm looking at something and working on a new trick. And I start thinking, wait a minute, so I don't have to do it with this. I can do it with these things instead, and it'll be just as effective, and it'll fit my personality and who I am. And so, yeah, it was not being sold a magic trick was the best lesson in magic that I could ever have had.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that story. That's why I wanted to go back to that, because when I read about it, I just thought that's fantastic. And whoever that gentleman is, I'm so happy for the magic community that he went ahead and fixed that error by the shop owner or shop, whoever's in the shop that day. And then, as most of us do, we start working on little things. So when you got started, where did you kind of start performing after that, when you were little?
Well, I started doing kids' birthday parties.
Okay.
And I actually ended up getting hired to do some assembly shows at elementary schools. And then I did a contest when I was 12. And I dressed up as Alice in Wonderland. And I had a giant top hat with a rabbit that would come out. And I didn't know about Del O'Dell at the time, but Del O'Dell did a trick with a rabbit coming out of the top hat. But I had this rabbit that would come out of the top hat, and he would do all magic, and he was the White Rabbit. And so it was Alice in Wonderland with a white rabbit doing magic tricks for these birthday parties. So I entered it into a magic competition in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and I placed second against James Seelan. But it was held at this one theater that was part of the library, and the library saw me, and they hired me to do their Saturday morning program, which was every Saturday morning they would show a kids movie. And so I would come in and I would do like 8 to 10 minutes before the movie, and then the movie would start.
That's fantastic.
So, yeah. And so then I kept doing magic all through high school and into college. And then I moved to New York and did magic there and paid all my bills there, and moved to Atlantic City, was in shows there, and then moved to Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it was very, I don't know, you've always been able to keep going and do that from, that beginning, and it's fantastic. I think you're also, just one of the things I've read, when you do get adversity, it always seems to make you, I don't know, fight that much harder, maybe? Is that a right way to put it?
I love it when people say no. No, to me, is a great motivator. It's one of those things that makes me go, really? When people say no, as far as, being a performer, it's generally because they're afraid of something. So, and a lot of people are afraid of change. A perfect example of that is when I was a kid, it was my goal and dream to be an act in a review show and to come out and do my 8 to 12 minutes and go home at the end of the evening and do that for the rest of my life. I wanted to do that. That was, so many magicians did that at the time. And what I wasn't told was that review shows didn't hire women. The reason that they don't hire women is because they have all these female dancers in the show, and they have a couple female singers, and review show acts are generally male, so that the viewing audience has something else to look at other than women. Okay. So they don't hire women. But I didn't know that, and nobody told me. So I kept hitting these roadblocks, and you know, shows were like, wow, you've got a great act, but it doesn't fit our show. And it wasn't until I got a call from Splash, and they said, can you be here? They called at midnight, said, can you be here tomorrow at 5 o'clock? I said, sure. And they said, well, bring your manip act because we need it in front of the curtain. And I said, okay. So I showed up, and I had it's a union room. I had between 5 and 6 o'clock to load in, set up the act, do the sound, lighting, and all the tech work.
Okay.
Between 5 and 6, you know, on top of the loading in and everything. And then at 6 o'clock, they opened the doors, and the first show started at 7. At 7 o'clock, I still didn't know when I started in the show. I told the production guy, the Ruffy, I said, just have somebody knock on my door like 5 or 10 minutes before I'm supposed to go on stage, and I'll be down there and ready, because I didn't know what number I came after. And my table at that time did a thing where when I would be standing in the center of the stage, the table would be off to one side, and I'd kind of call it over, and it would come over towards me.
Oh, okay.
So the stagehand running out in the dark tripped and fell, and everything in the table went flying. So we put everything back into the table, nothing where it should be. You know, appearing candles had suddenly appeared. And as the lights came up to start the act with the music, behind the curtain, I hear, I tripped and fell, nothing's where it should be. And so as the lights come up, I look down at my table, I look out at the audience, and all I think is, oh. And so, yeah, I had to stretch things out and, you know, kind of go, I was, I mean, you're supposed to be a trick ahead from the audience, but I had to be several tricks ahead just because I had to think, okay, what am I going to do next? What am I going to be able to do next? And I thought, and I was just coming in as a replacement act. And I'm like, they're not going to keep me. And it's funny, the owner of the show was there, and he came backstage, and he said, because I only had to do 3.5 minutes because the act that I was replacing only did 3.5 minutes. And he came backstage and said, that's great, but can you do 2 things? And I said, yeah. And he goes, can you change your costume? You're wearing a pink jacket and you're in front of a red curtain. I want you in a different color. I said, yeah, give me a week or so and I'll have a different costume for you. He goes, great. And he goes, can you do more time? And I'm thinking, more time? I can do more time, but I just up that time. Excuse my French, but yeah.
That's a great story. I had never heard about that one before. That's fantastic.
Well, and the other funny thing is that they didn't tell me what was going on behind me while I was doing the act. What was going on behind me was they were setting the ice for the show.
Okay.
So because it was Splash, they had the water tank and the skaters and all the other stuff. It was real ice. So they're peeling back the rubber part of the stage to reveal the ice. And you can feel this wave of cold coming through the curtain. Now I'm doing a manipulation act, and my fingers are getting really cold. So I actually changed the act around so that some of the harder manipulation stuff was more at the beginning of the act, where it was warmer on stage, and then some of the easier stuff was closer to the end.
That's amazing. That's good thinking there.
And they kept me in that show for a year. And I'm supposed to be there for a week to replace until they found somebody else.
Well, there you go. That's what you meant by you were in the door, but your talent kept you. You know, you kept the job in doing that. Now, before that, you were at Secrets at Fitzgerald.
Yeah, I had my own show downtown.
Yeah, And so did you enjoy working down what, like, I don't know what they call it in Las Vegas, but for people around here we call it like old Las Vegas. I don't know if that's a good name
No,
for it, but
downtown is the original Las Vegas. And
yeah,
so some of the casinos are like 120 years old.
yeah,
And so if you're on the Strip, most people don't know this, but you're in Paradise. You're actually not in Vegas.
okay.
And so Bugsy Siegel built the Flamingo so that he had access to the Las Vegas Police Department, but he didn't have to deal with their laws.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
And what's interesting is that the Flamingo was not the first casino on the Strip. It was a casino called Paradise, Paradise.
Oh, okay. I get it. I've never heard of it, but
Which is why the Strip area is called Paradise. It's named after that casino.
that's interesting.
Yeah. And then the El Rancho was next, and then it was the Flamingo. So,
Yeah,
but
that's cool.
downtown is a very unique place. And it's very unique, but it's getting this revival now. And it wasn't when I was down there, but now it is. And so now it's getting this huge revival, and it's actually a great place. I have a lot of friends that are performing down there.
I know a lot of people have asking and talking about with your Vegas stuff that you opened. Well, you've done a lot. You've opened Louis Anderson, Amazing Jonathan, but with the magician stuff, they're kind of want to know if you can talk a little bit about Amazing Jonathan and your time there.
Yeah. I opened for Amazing Jonathan for almost 2 years. And I had opened for him on and off in almost every casino where he performed here in Vegas. And yeah, I always had a great time opening for him. I mean, he's really smart, and he was just a riot. You never knew what was going to happen backstage. You never knew what was going to happen on stage. But yeah, he was a riot, and we used to do things just to with him. And again, excuse my French. But so one of the easiest ways to annoy him on stage was to have Penny miss a cue. So Psychic Tanya. So we would do things, and we'd get her involved in conversations and stuff so that she would miss cues, and then she'd be like, and because Jonathan would be on stage screaming for her. And then he'd think it was her fault. And then he'd say, I'm going to deduct your wages if you're late, not realizing it was, the rest of the people that were doing that to her just so that we could have fun.
Yeah, well, that's good. That makes it for a fun work experience. But I'm sure, I don't know the man, but I'm sure that he probably got back a couple times at you guys with practical jokes.
He was notorious for doing practical jokes with the opening acts. And there were a few opening acts, one being myself, where he never did any practical jokes. And I don't know why. I asked him that the other day, and because I'm still friends with him.
Sure.
And so, yeah. And so I asked him, I said, why did you never, do any practical jokes with me? And he's like, yeah, he goes, there were a couple people that I didn't do that with. And he goes, I don't know why. I just couldn't think of anything good. But Jonathan is, for all that robust and that character that he puts on stage, if I had a problem, he would fix it.
Okay.
So a good example of that is, and by the way, if you're going to do like have a horrible accident on stage, make sure you do it at a magic convention so that so that everybody talks about it for the rest of your life. But no, and it's funny, I have the footage of this incident. So I'm doing the Desert Magic Seminar, and I've been opening for Jonathan, and I have a candle routine. And it's since become really hard to even light a match on stage. So I've taken the candles out. But I'm doing this candle routine, and the candle in the candelabra, even though it's sitting in the little plastic disc that the Fantasia candles come in or come with, I've still pulled it just a little bit too much, so it's just a little too skinny, and it wobbles in the candelabra. And I come over to that side of the table and I bump it. And the candle slips out of the candelabra and hits my head right here.
Oh, no.
And normally the candles go out because there's not a lot holding that flame. This candle didn't. It didn't go out in the fall. And so when it hit my head, it hit the hairspray and ignited. Now,
that's what I was going to ask. Oh, boy.
Yeah, so fire burns up. So I'm not feeling it because it's just the ends of my hair, which still don't grow very well there. And and so it's just the ends of my hair. But I can tell by looking out in the audience at the front row that something is horribly wrong because of the look of horror on their faces. And I'm thinking, oh, man, my head's on fire. And so I put it out with my hand because I'm like, if I can't feel it, it's not a bad fire. So all I did was this, and I put the fire out. And at the end of the candle routine, and I kept going because that's what I'd been taught, is that you keep going. So I kept going, and I put the fire out, and I finished the routine. And at the end of the routine, I take one of the candles and I turn it into just a little mini snowstorm. And I'm turning as I do the snowstorm, and I see little pieces of burnt hair. And so I finished doing the snowstorm, and I do the turn extra quickly because I can see all these little pieces of burnt hair. And as I finish, I do this, and then I do this to get all the pieces of burnt hair out. And Jonathan came running backstage to make sure that I was okay. And he knew that at the end of the show, we were doing this, it was a birthday party. And we had this giant cake for one of the performers who was turning 40-something. And there was going to be a lot of candles on it. So Jonathan said, go get a fire extinguisher. And I said, okay, what for? He said, just trust me, go get a fire extinguisher. So I went and got a fire extinguisher. And he goes, you're going to go out on stage with the fire extinguisher when they take the cake out. And he goes, make sure you've got the nozzle so that, it looks like you're ready to spray. And so I did, and it got a huge laugh.
That's funny.
Yeah, but that's the kind of person that Jonathan is. He really does care about the people around him.
That's good. That's good to hear. And doing that. Sorry to hear about your burning your head and stuff. I don't know how I've missed that one. Never heard that story before.
Everything, like I said, everything has like a great learning experience for me. And so at the convention, the younger people were like, you burnt your hair. And or you set yourself on fire. And I'm like, you just wait. People who are my age were like, we don't know her. We don't know her. But the older performers, like the Thompsons, Shamada, Norm Nielsen, all of these people came up to me with their own horror stories of setting themselves on fire, setting their assistants on fire, setting costumes on fire, setting props on fire, setting all these things on fire because they'd all done it at one point in time. And so the truth is, the younger people don't know. People my age, some of them just hadn't had an experience where they'd done something like that. But if you perform every day, something's going to go wrong eventually. And it's how you handle yourself on stage and how you deal with it that tells you what kind of a performer you are. And I had some performers my age who were like, oh man, I'd have gone running, screaming off stage. And I couldn't do that. No.
That's great that you did it. That's what I would have tried to do also, and hopefully I never light my, well, there's nothing up there to burn now, but hopefully I never light myself on fire and do that. But yeah, you're right. There's, just you're really taught to just keep going. So, and it's great that it's great that you did, and also neat that you can laugh about it, because yes, bad things happen. If you perform, bad things are going to happen. If you get in front of people in general, something's going to go, and how you deal with it, that says a lot about your character,
And it's I think it's one of the reasons why Jonathan had me open for him for so long, because he knew if something was going to go wrong, whether it was my act or his act, that things continue, and that I know how to just keep going.
Yeah. So he could count on you. If something went wrong in his act and you had to run back out for something, and do something, you'd done it. You would have got back out there and started entertaining again until they could have got ready and do the thing. That's important. That is very important. If you're going to be on the bill somebody, you want someone that you can trust to help if, something does happen bad. So.
Right. When I was in Splash, they had a power outage, and when the show started back up, there was problems, and so they could get the lights back up, but they were having problems with some of the sets weren't moving properly and other things. And so the variety acts went out and filled the rest of the time for the show.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You've got a long list of things that you've done in Vegas with the shows, with Splash and that, Centerfolds of Magic, X-Girls, there's so many.
The best thing about Centerfolds of Magic is I have a t-shirt. My dancers are thrilled that they have t-shirts from that show.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I wanted to kind of see the show, but when I was out there when I was going.
It was put together by this guy who knows nothing about magic.
So it was terrible?
Oh my God, it was beyond terrible. And so the show had been open for a couple weeks, and they called me up and said, we need somebody who can do magic in the show. Let's put it this way. The guy who put the show together came in one day to a rehearsal, gave the dancers dancing canes, and said, here you go. Figure it out.
Oh, wow. So he just had an idea for a show and nothing else.
Well, he had put other magic shows together, but they were disasters too. Things like Scarlet. And so he doesn't have a background, and he's not a magic consultant, and he's not a real magician. He's kind of like a hobbyist.
Okay.
And so it just wasn't good.
Yeah.
I mean, if you, as a magician, if you wanted to go and sit and just laugh at horrible magic and horrible production, then it was a friggin' awesome show.
Yeah, I probably would have had a different reaction. I probably would have felt sad, and actually I probably felt sorry for the performers that had to put up with that, and
Well, and they had hired some really good dancers. So the dancers, when they were doing dance numbers, were great. And so they had this one girl who was a centerfold, and they had her doing kids show magic, like the coloring book. And the girl was mortified. So her contract said that there was supposed to be a certain amount of money put into an escrow account, and it wasn't. And so she said, no, you've defaulted on the contract. I have no proof that you can pay me, so I'm out of here. And there were other things that had happened. And so she left the day that I was supposed to come in and just do, 2 spots. I was supposed to do a 4-minute spot and an 8-minute spot. And so they turned to me and said, can you host the show? And I'm like, yeah, but that's not what I'm hired to do.
Yeah.
So yes. I called up, fortunately, I'm friends with Johnny Thompson. So I called up Johnny Thompson. I'm like, what do I do? And he's like, just go out and do, you know, fun little intermittent things. And he said, but you're going to tell jokes. And so he gave me a list of jokes. And keep in mind, I am not funny. So, and there's only like 2 jokes that I can remember out of all the jokes that he gave me. But one of them was, you know, he said, when you come out and introduce yourself as the centerfold. And he goes, but we're going to make fun of the fact that you're the centerfold. And I said, okay. And so he goes, you're going to tell people that you can tell that you're a centerfold because the staples, and that I was a centerfold in a magic magazine because the staples link and unlink.
That is funny.
Yeah, and he goes, yeah, the big photo that I did was I was holding 2 rabbits. That's 2 rabbits, yeah. And so he did. He gave me like a whole bunch of jokes and stuff, and that really helped me out. But because it wasn't the stereotypical kind of hosting for a show that I'm used to.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, it was weird. I did the show for like a week, and I said to them at the end of the week, I said, "Are you gonna?" Because there was hardly anyone in the audience. I said, "Are you gonna need me next week?" And they're like, "Oh, of course we will." And so I go in at the beginning of, or I get a call an hour before I'm supposed to go in at the beginning of the second week. And they say, "Oh, yeah, we're not going to need you for the second week." Now my props have been there. So I go, great. I call up the entertainment director. I said, I'm going to be down in like 15 minutes with a truck. I'm picking up all my stuff. Can you have the doors open for me? And he goes, yep. And so I went in, loaded everything up, and the dancers are just looking at me going, wait a minute, we were told that we're using this equipment. We've been rehearsing with it. I'm like, yeah, I know.
That's not good.
Yeah. So I loaded all my stuff out, and there's a magic builder here in town that has no qualms of copying things.
Okay.
But what most people don't realize is that a lot of my stuff has been built to fit me and my assistants, which means it's smaller than you'd find from other magic builders, because, you know, I'm only 5'6". So why would I build big, huge props, you know, to stand next to and go, look, I have a big, giant prop. I'm only 5'6". My assistants are anywhere from 5 foot, 5'2".
Right.
Gee, I wonder where they're hiding.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this builder had built stuff and taken measurements off my props. Well, it didn't fit any of the dancers properly, and they couldn't figure out how I was doing some of the stuff because they couldn't get it to work properly. So the builder calls me up. So the show closed like 3 days after I loaded out. And the builder calls me up at the end of the week and goes, hey, I have these props. Are you interested in buying them? I'm like, no. How about I come over and I just burn them for you?
That probably made him happy.
And you can get your money back that way.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
Because he hadn't been paid for building them. And I'm like, well, there's a good life lesson for you, isn't it?
Yeah, that's about all you can really say at that point. I mean, he kind of did it to himself, so
yeah.
You'd feel worse if it was a legit and he was building things and doing it, but not when he's stealing other people's, you know, basically stealing your show. You know, I mean, that's even worse.
But he's stolen other people's props and built them, and
yeah. I don't think anybody in magic likes that. Well, there's a few because they obviously sell to someone, but I mean, most of us, we just don't like, you know.
Yeah, and you know, I understand younger people doing that, because one, you don't have a lot of money when you're younger, and you're still kind of learning what's right and what's wrong. And a lot of younger people have people that they look up to and idolize.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to have some similar success to obviously the person they idolize. So they, in idolizing, they copy. But most people, after copying and performing and realize, wait a minute, this doesn't fit my style, it doesn't fit who I am. Maybe I need to figure out who I am. And they stop. But as we all know, there is that, 1 to 5% who doesn't stop, and their whole career is just ripping people off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame when you see something online and you watch a magician and you say, wait a second, that's so-and-so's act, and, doing it. I mean, it's terrible. Yeah, and a lot of it is because they like them. Others, they just think it's a great actor. Some of them are overseas from us, and they just think, who's going to know, and they can do the stuff. And it's not just magic. I mean, I'm sure it happens in other professions also.
It does. It happens in music, and it happens in the arts.
Okay, now, we talked a little bit about the Vegas stuff. Also, television. You do a lot on TV and everything. Masters of Illusions. Steve Harvey's Big Time. I just rewatched that video here again the other day when I was looking things up, and that looked like fun. Is Steve Harvey a fun guy?
Yes. I actually shot the show twice.
Okay.
There's only one copy that's up online. But yeah, Steve Harvey was an absolute delight to work with. Loved working with him. He's funny. He's quick. He's, can't say enough good things about him. But I went and shot the show once, and we shot the show, but my part of the show was bumped because they had a star that showed up last minute.
Okay.
And some of the other people that were on the show were international performers. And they knew I was coming in from Vegas, so I was an easy person to have come back again. Mm-hmm. And there was a nice rapport back and forth between Steve Harvey and I. The people that work for Steve Harvey said to me, just let him be funny. Don't you try to be funny. Just be the straight person. Let him be funny. And I was used to working with Jonathan, so I said, okay.
Yeah.
I did that. And so, Steve Harvey loved it because he could tell all the jokes that he wanted. I would just laugh at them.
Yeah.
But I taught him how to do the rope tie, how to do all the knots.
Okay.
And he did the trick for TV. He still to this day has no idea how I got out of the ropes that he tied up.
Yeah, and got his jacket on and everything he was doing. It's a great video. I mean, it really, it's different for TV, as I'm telling you, but you know what I'm saying. And that was great. I mean, it really, really is I recommend if people get a chance and go out and catch it online and everything, because it is a good video and they'll enjoy the effect that you did with that. And, it's obviously older because Steve still had his hair then. He hadn't shaved his head yet, but, doing that. But I got to admit, I had not ever watched that show when it was on there. So I was kind of glad to catch that now, and doing all that. You did one with Lance Burton's Gorilla Magic on the Animal Planet. I actually have not seen that. How did that go?
It's weird on that particular episode. So I've done television. And one of the things that I've done a lot of, oddly enough, is hidden camera.
Oh, okay.
And so I did hidden camera. I did 2 or 3 hidden camera spots for that show with animals. So one of them was like going up to a coat check person and asking if I could check my coat. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute, I need to empty it. And, I keep pulling out all these different animals out of all the different boxes. Yeah.
That'd be hilarious.
Yeah. And so I did that kind of stuff for that episode.
Okay.
And it was really fun. because I like when I get to do things that are different from what everybody else is doing. So, but yeah, I did a TV show called Card Sharks that was all hidden camera stuff. It's, they show most of what happens, and then they leave the end and they go, what do you think happened in the end? Did the person do this or did they do that? And you have to pick one or the other in order to win the prize.
Oh,
but yeah,
okay.
a lot of that hidden camera work. And then there was another show that I did. I can't even, there was a show I did down for Brazilian television where I did some hidden camera stuff for them. And yeah.
And some of the newer hit shows that are on now, like with the Master Chef and Pawn Stars and doing that stuff. So how's the bachelor party?
Yeah. The people on the show, the people from American Restoration, those guys were absolutely delightful. Loved them. Loved the guys from Counting Cars. In fact, I've run into a couple of them since then. And there were a couple guys from Pawn Stars that were real sweethearts. Oh, and the guys from Sons of Anarchy, they were a lot of fun.
Okay.
And we'll leave it at that.
Leave it at that. That sounds like a good place to leave it when you say it that way and everything. I don't know them. Haven't met any of them. I'll be honest. Go ahead.
Is that the producer who was there for the show, for the shoot, called me up like 2 weeks later, and she goes, "I'm sitting here in the editing bay, and we have watched you do that bird production over and over and over again, and we have no idea where the bird's coming from." I'm like, then I did it right.
Yeah, that sounds perfect. I've watched the show, and I'll be honest with you, Ariann, I hadn't seen that episode. I'm going to have to go find it now so I can see the bachelor party and see you do your stuff. But it might have been before I started watching the show because I hadn't seen that, but I'm anxious to go see it now and do that. So I will be in for a treat, I'm sure, and doing that. And
but I will say that when I went and shot Grey's Anatomy.
Yes.
That was an absolutely wonderful shoot. And so the producer of the show, actually he was the executive producer, was their 200th episode. So he had decided that he was going to be the director of that episode also.
Okay.
And he really wanted a magician. So they'd done a casting call for magicians, and they'd interviewed like 30 or 40 magicians, and he hated all of them. And so there were other variety acts that were being brought in because it was a Cirque type feel for this episode. And he said to the lady bringing in the other variety acts, "Do you know any magicians?" And she said, "Yeah, I do, but it's a girl." And he goes, "Great, send me her stuff." So she sent my information, and he goes, "Is she good?" And the girl goes, "Yeah, she is." And he goes, "Great, she's hired." I didn't audition. And so I went to Johnny Thompson again, because when I'm, doing something like that, you should use all the resources you have. Let me say it now. You should use every single resource you have. So I go to John and I'm like, I don't know what to expect. I know that they want quick things. So I know dub production. And so we went through a couple tricks and came up with variations of tricks where you could tell that it was trick being done, but you didn't have to see the whole trick. So like a card sort is a perfect example. You can have a person put the card back into the deck, toss that deck up into the air immediately, stab, done in 10 seconds. And you get a huge, great visual that you can repeat over and over again. Because if they're shooting you from the waist up, then you can just have a stack of cards and you can keep having them slide the card in because nobody sees what the card is. They just see, oh, a chosen card's being put in. It's being tossed in the air and being stabbed. So All you're resetting is the sword. So things like that. The bird, easy to reset. And so what I did was, as soon as I got there, I took John's advice and I was set and ready. And the guy came up to me and said, "So you're the magician?" I said, "Yep." And he goes, "What can you do?" And I had a silk in my hand and I said, "What do you want to see? Do you want to see something like this?" And I produced a bird right in front of him.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
And he just about fell over.
Yeah.
He turned to the camera because there was other people around him and they were all just standing there going, because they didn't, they had seen other magicians and nothing was what they wanted. And he turned to the camera guy and said, "Put her on stage, put her on film now." Because they were actually going to cut the part of the magician out of that episode.
Oh.
Even though it was a major part. And they'd already cut it down because I'd already missed 2 days of shooting. And so yeah, that's why you see me doing the bird production, coming in and out of commercials for that episode. And also, he's in the middle of because I was there for a couple days shooting. And so in the middle of one of the days, he comes up to me and he goes, "I just need you to stand here. You don't have to do anything. We're going to have people watching you and then they'll clap like they've seen something, but they're going to do the silent applause because we have people, we're filming over here and you're kind of in the background and we want them talking." And I said, "Okay." And so I dug out my manip cards and I did the card manip routine. And as I'm doing the card manip routine, I'm watching what they're talking to make sure that I can do the exact same moves at the same time for every time they shoot and reshoot it. And because card manip, it's easy. It's easy to reset. But what it does is it made the fake audience clap together at the same time. And it made it look like something really was happening on stage and that they were clapping. And so you'll see there's footage where they are talking and you can see me doing card manip behind them because the director kept it in.
That's great. I mean, that's fantastic. I love to hear that, the behind the scenes things and doing all that. And you obviously had enough knowledge about what the TV and stuff to, like you said, to repeat and do it and make sure it looked the same from all the different takes and stuff. And not everybody could do that. So, I mean, yay for you. Doing that there. All righty. Now, you were on like MasterChef, and that brings me to another question. Your cooking. I know you like to cook. So I'm putting you on the spot and just putting that out there. So tell us a little bit about your cooking.
I do like to cook. So I've been cooking for a long time. Why? Because I like to eat. And but I don't like eating a lot of processed foods. So I like cooking from scratch. And for a long time, I dated somebody who did not like my cooking. So I thought I was a bad cook. On top of that, my mother is an absolutely horrible cook. And, my father's idea of making spaghetti sauce is putting capers and olives in the red sauce, which is really disgusting when you think about it. So, yeah, I come from a family where cooking, nobody was a good cook. And then I was with this person. And what I realized later in life was that it wasn't that I was a bad cook. It was that he liked macaroni and cheese out of the box. He didn't like it made from scratch. He liked, spaghetti sauce out of the can because he wants the sugars and the other things that are added to it because he's addicted to that. And he liked processed foods. Well, if you like processed foods, then yeah, you might not like eating, real food. So
I understand that.
Yeah. And so it's only in the past, and so I've cooked, my whole life, but it's only in the past like 5-7 years that I've discovered that, no, wait, I am a good cook. People do like my cooking. But it's funny because I basically just cook for myself. And if I have to cook for more than 2 people, that for me is, I really have to think about it, because I have to think about how much I need to make, and then I make too much, and then there's but yeah, I had people over for Thanksgiving because I was shooting a television special for French television.
Oh.
And some of the people left the house going, "Oh my God, that's the best meal I've ever eaten in my entire life." And so I have people that like when I post food that I make online, I have people that call me up and ask me, or send me messages and ask me for the recipes. I have people that ask me to come over and teach. So I do go over and teach some of the things that I make and how I make them. And but I started a thing called the Cooking Club. And I have friends that are international friends. And we get together like once a month and work on different dishes, because I figure if I'm interested in, like my friend Neela from India, she moved here a couple of years ago. You know, she makes traditional Indian dishes. Well, I want to know how to make those and how to make them properly. So I go and, you know, get the lessons from her, and she gets lessons on how to make food from me. But what my friends in the Cooking Club love about me is that they'll show me something, and I'll think about it for like a day or so, and then I come back and I'm like, oh my God, okay, if you take this part of what you made yesterday and you mix it with this, and I'll have already done it, I'll be like, it creates a great dish. And so they'll try it, and when you're used to making traditional dishes, sometimes you don't think outside the box. Okay. And so they love the fact that I will take these traditional dishes and I think outside the box, and I put them together with other things that they would never, ever think to put them together with. And sometimes it takes me, you know, 2 or 3 tries. Generally, it takes 1 try, and I'll get it right, because I know enough about the chemistry of cooking to figure it out. But yeah, sometimes it'll take 2 or 3 tries.
So you're pretty much self-taught then.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So do you like cookbooks? Do you like watching TV shows, or just wherever you can get the idea, you'll do it and go for it?
I don't watch cooking shows.
Okay.
I have a couple cookbooks, and I will use them sometimes to get the basic ingredients right. Like if I'm making gnocchi, like I don't like eating the white starches with potato, but I like sweet potatoes. So, but sweet potatoes don't have enough potato starch in them to hold to make proper gnocchi. So it was figuring out the right balance of starch in with the sweet potatoes or the yams to make the gnocchi. You know, sometimes I'll have to reference a cookbook for things like that. When I make Yorkshire pudding. So one of the jokes in my family is my mother used to make green Yorkshire pudding.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Not because it was good. It was really, really bad. And so, but I make a joke about green Yorkshire pudding. So I make it green, and I add matcha powder with a little bit of lemon zest, so that it comes out this bright green, and it actually makes a great dessert if you sprinkle a little bit of lemon icing, or like I'll make a lemon marmalade or a lemon curd. Sprinkle a little bit of that onto the Yorkshire pudding made with the green matcha powder. It's really good.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so I love that you just basically come up with your own things and create. So that's, honestly, that's, like you said, people would just follow recipes, which there's nothing wrong. They're tried and true. But, you know, if you want to come up with something different and do that. And
well, what I find here is that a lot of people will follow recipes, and they follow it to the letter because that's the way they grew up with it. But then so many people are developing food allergies and problems to foods, and so they need variations, but they don't know how to do a variation because it's not in the cookbook. And so I'm very good at coming up with variations. So my friends who are vegans, will call me and say, what can I do if I want a variation of this dish? And I will give them all sorts of alternatives. People who have problems with flour and or celiac disease, which is, they can't do the certain types of wheats. They're always calling me up and saying, what can I do? I have a friend that, and my grandmother was allergic to eggs. But eggs are used in a lot of baking because it's a binding agent. So, what are the variations that you can use instead of eggs to cook with?
You mentioned a couple times on here, but I had it in my notes because I wanted to address it more because I'm a big fan of this gentleman, and you have him that you can use, and it's Johnny Thompson, and that to me has to be one of the best things in the world because he's just in my opinion, just a genius when it comes to magic and everything. I love to watch him, and obviously you see that he's consulting on so many things, so he must be great to work with that way. And so I just wanted to, ask you a little bit about Johnny, and you kind of mentioned it, and how much fun it must be to work with him and everything, have him as a friend.
It is. Having Johnny Thompson in my life makes me say that I am the luckiest person in the world. And it's funny. A lot of people say I look like Pam. And so I can go to things, and if I'm with them, people who don't know them very well assume that I'm their daughter.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. And so Pam and I love that. But yeah, I'm really lucky in the fact that John treats me like a daughter.
Yes.
So I get to go to the house and hang out with them, and have dinner with them, and just be a part of their lives. And they are most wonderful, gracious people. And John is one of the nicest people you will ever meet in magic. He is an absolutely fabulous, fabulous person. I cannot say enough good things about him. If you see him at a magic convention, he loves it when people come up and introduce themselves and ask him questions and stuff. He's always open and willing to answer anything. He loves helping people. He really does.
That's good to know, because you like to know which ones are approachable and which ones, if you don't, I don't want to bother somebody if they really don't want,
The only time people don't get bothered is when they're sitting, eating.
That's probably true. That's probably true a lot.
But no, he loves walking down the halls and people stopping him, or at the parties, sitting at the tables and having a big group around him. I mean, that's what makes him feel alive. And so, yeah, he just loves it. He eats it up.
Well, good. That's a really good thing to know. Okay, I'm going to also we talked TV and some of the Vegas stuff. I noticed this year that you were doing, I don't know how many total you had, but you did a lot of festivals, going around in different places some were United States. I don't know if you did any of them that were overseas or not. And how did those go? And was that a good time?
You broke up, so I didn't hear the whole question.
I'm sorry. I said the festivals that you were doing this last year that you had a chance to go do. Did you enjoy those, and how did they go?
I did enjoy them. I know that those particular festivals that were being run by Jay will most likely not happen this year. I had a great time. I had a great time working with some of the performers. One of the places that we went to was Sandusky.
Right.
Yeah, the attendance wasn't so great, but It was Fielding West, myself, and Michael Godot, and the three of us just had so much fun, and that was really great. The festivals definitely created a camaraderie around some of the performers, which I'm not used to having as an outside performer. Usually, I just come in, I do my spots, and you know, and then I leave. But for some reason, these festivals really encourage the performers to kind of befriend each other, and so that was a lot of fun for me, because I'd never had that before. And but yeah, yeah, it was great. When I went out to, actually, I still have friends from one of the festivals that I went and did in Asheville, North Carolina. Made some great friends out there, and have been out there again since. And then let's see, what's one of the other places? Sacramento. So I don't know why Sacramento doesn't, the city itself doesn't sponsor a weekend magic festival, because it was in Old Sacramento, and it's this riverboat, and it's perfect. It's perfect for a magic festival, and somebody should be doing one every year there.
I'm too bad that they're not having more of them, so because I think they're a great thing, but they probably are hard to run and take up a lot of everybody meaning.
Well, I know that the original one in, I think it's Little Rock with Maxwell Blade.
Okay.
I believe that his is still and going into his third or fourth year of doing that.
Okay, well, that's good. The festivals are nice. I like those. I mean, we have your standard conventions that come around and you go to, but it's nice every now and then when a new thing pops up. Give something different. There's a festival going around, and it may give you an opportunity to see some performers that you don't get to see, and it's a different atmosphere definitely than a convention. Or convention, structured where a festival is structured on your end. You got to be at your thing, but you can kind of pick, choose, go, and come around and do that. For the couple that I've been at, and I like that a lot also. So doing that. I wanted to talk about your charity work, because I think, well, I love it when people do charity anyways, but when, big names such as yourself come out and do the charity work, that helps an event. It just does. And three charities that I'm sure you do a lot, but that you really talk about a lot on your webpage are the Best Buddies, doing Children's Hospital, and Welcome Home Troops. And I wanted you to tell us a little bit about those charities since we're here, and I'm sure people would love to hear about it.
Yeah, I truly believe in giving back. I think it's very important. And so the easiest way to give back is to find things that are important to you. And although I'm not American, I have worked with some of the Medal of Honor winners, or recipients. Sorry, you don't win that award. Recipients.
Yes.
And those people made me realize, wow, these people have seen the worst in other people and in the world, and they're the most gracious. And so I love doing work for them, and I love helping them and doing fundraisers for them. And Welcome Home Troops, we have that here in Vegas, and I go and do shows with that. Also, as far as the military is concerned, I know that I'm supposed to be doing some USO stuff. And the last time that I did USO shows was like maybe 10 years ago or so. And you're in trouble when you're fitted for a flap jacket.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of danger there.
Yeah, it's like, do I really need this? And if I do, why am I going?
Yeah, but I'm sure they appreciate it. I mean, a lot.
Right. But USO shows, if you're a performer, it's the best audience you will ever perform for in your entire life. It's this group of people that, you know, they're out there fighting, but then, you know, you're there to entertain them, and they're there to have fun, and they're so happy to do something other than think about war. And that's what you're there for. And as a magician, I always say magicians are, you know, we're the ones that make dreams happen, you know, make fantasies into reality. And which is another reason why I think it's a very feminine art form.
Yes.
But yeah, so you've got these people, and they're just so appreciative, and it makes you look at your life differently. And so that's one of the reasons why I like doing the military shows. Best Buddies is a program that I put together. And it's for people with mental handicaps. And so it doesn't matter whether they have Down syndrome or Asperger's or, you know, any type of autism or whatever it is, brain injury. They, you know, we do these things. And so I get together with them like once a month, and I go over the tricks that we've learned in past months, and then we learn a new trick. And some of them have problems with motor skills. So I try to make sure that the motor skills in the tricks are fairly simple. Some have problems with counting. So when you do a magic trick and you have to count 4, generally you have to think with a different part of the brain. And so some people who've had problems counting just to 4 can all of a sudden do it. And if they really can't count 4, some can do the alphabet, A, B, C, and D. And so that. And so it's finding all these little alternatives to make the tricks work for these people. And the other thing is that a lot of these people don't want to get up in front of others, in front of strangers, and do anything. Well, what I do is at the end of the class, everybody has to get up and do the trick for the entire class. Well, now parents are seeing, you know, a child or an adult child get up in front of people when they've never seen them do that before, and have some type of confidence to do that. And
yeah, that's amazing.
It is.
That's amazing.
It is. And so, yeah, I've had parents come up to me crying. And I love it. I love doing it. It really is. It's a challenge because if there's more than 3 people there, it's really hard to teach them without help. And so I'm always, you know, trying to find other magicians that can come in and help teach and all the other stuff. But yeah, it's a great program, and I'm hoping that it, you know, that Best Buddies learns to embrace it and moves forward with it.
Yeah, I love seeing the pictures online that you post from and everything. I mean, those kids are, I guess, I don't know if you call them kids, but they just are so happy. And, you know, I mean, the smiles and I mean, you can just tell everybody's having fun, and it looks like a great event, and, you know, to do.
But that's what it's about. It's about having fun.
Yeah. Well, that's what magic to me is about. Just, it's fun. I mean, it may be a job, but it's still all in all, magic's supposed to just be fun. Like you said, so that's the way I look at it. And those, you know, they definitely have the biggest smiles and stuff. I mean, it's the pictures just, they're fantastic. I'm glad you post them and stuff. Makes me feel good just to look at them and everything that way. And saw the one with the children's hospital the other day, and you were all in your hospital gown and your hair thing and all that. And you know what? That's fantastic, because not a lot of people, I'm sure, everybody cares about the kids and stuff, but not a lot of people say, I'm not going through all this just to do that. But you have to. I mean, the poor kids, you have to. Right. You got to keep them safe.
Right. So there's an organization here in Vegas called Win-Win Entertainment, and it's a charity organization. And although the so the USO shows that I'm doing this year are through them, but the ones prior to that weren't. And the Medal of Honor and stuff, that hasn't been through Win-Win. But the hospital visits are. And part of the problem with setting up hospital visits is that most people don't know how to go about doing it. And so if you go through a charity, and the charities already has the, the system in place with the hospital to come in on certain days, and the staff knows you're going to be there and they're prepared, it's great. If you just show up at a hospital and say, hey, I'm an entertainer and I want to go and perform for the kids, most likely they're going to say no. So I know Win-Win is actually getting ready to branch out to other cities and, offer that to the hospitals and say, look, we'll contact performers in your city and we'll make the arrangements to have, performers, at least one show up every Wednesday or every Thursday or whatever the day is that they decide on. And that way the performers have somebody in a charity to go through, which makes it easier for them. And the hospital has somebody to go through that's kind of like the liaison that understands the protocol.
Okay.
And can help the performers with doing that. It's like a balloon artist can't just go into a hospital and make balloons because of latex allergies and some of the problems with latex balloons in the hospitals. You can't have them.
Right. And that is something not everybody's going to think about. So it's good when you have somebody that has it structured and just say, here's what you can do, here's what you can't do.
Right. Yep.
And the kids are going to love it. I mean, they're in a hospital, they're not having fun. So if they can get some magic and do all that, they're gonna really, really like that and enjoy it. So it's a great thing.
So it works out great. And so with Win-Win, also they do a thing here in Vegas where they feed the homeless on Mondays. So although I don't post that online, generally Monday night, if I'm not working, I'm down there helping them.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm glad you mentioned that. No, because I didn't know about that but I totally understand why you don't post it. I mean, you don't want to what's the word I'm trying to look for? Infringe on their privacy and doing that. You just want to help people, and that's a great thing. Okay.
What Win Entertainment is on Facebook, and you can actually go type in Win-Win Entertainment, and it'll come up, and you'll see and all the information for how to get a hold of them.
Yeah, I will check that out. Oh, I'm glad you mentioned getting online because I have not said this yet, but for people who are interested and may want to book you, because I've been talking about the corporate. I'm not the corporate, but the Vegas and the TV and these things. But you also do a lot of corporate magic. It's talked about on your webpage. And I wanted to give the webpage out there and stuff. It is Ariann Black. Oh, wait a second. I had it there and then I lost it. Just so my eye just went crazy. Okay, sorry. AriannBlack.com, but it's the Ariann with the one N.
Actually, I just have bought the two N's.
Oh, okay. Fantastic.
Yep. So I now have both.
You have both.
Doesn't matter what you type in. In fact, I'm dealing with that's one of the things I'm doing this afternoon is dealing with the web company so that doesn't matter what you type in, it'll take you to the web page. To the web page.
Well, that's fantastic. And there is a little neat story that people can read on there about why when you had to use the single N and then you could go back to double N, but I won't go into that now. I'll let them go to the webpage and find that, and they can see that for themselves because it is a fun story to read and do that. What I did want to ask you is, what are you doing now? I pretty much use all this time talking about the past and doing it, but like I said, it's very fascinating to me how you have done in the world of magic and the other things we've discussed with the charities and everything. So what are you doing now, and what projects do you have coming up that you might want to talk about?
I have a couple projects coming up that I can't really talk about.
Okay.
I do a lot of corporate when I'm here in Vegas. I've been asked to be in a show here in Vegas, but I don't really want to talk about it because I find that there is so little work here in town right now that you mentioned that you've been asked to be part of a show, and 50 magicians are sending in their resume saying, use me instead of her. And unfortunately, a lot of them will work much cheaper.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, so I don't talk about my future work a lot. I mean, I am excited about one of these projects. Actually, I'm excited about two of the projects that are coming up. Well, one is a show here in Vegas, and the other one is a television project. But yeah, you know, when I was in Splash, it's a good example. Ruffy, the company manager, would hand me a stack of resumes and videotapes by other magicians, you know, with notes saying, you know, hey, hire me, I'm better than that girl, and I'll do a better job.
It is an unfortunate, not with the magicians and stuff. I have a lot of friends in the vet community, and it happens in entertainment field. I realize it's a competitive field and people need to eat, they need to support their children, they need to do it, but I guess that's why I'm happy that I do what I do, because I don't have to depend on it for my livelihood, and I can just enjoy the magic. Because
I remember there was a show about 6 years ago that I wanted to be in, and I knew some of the acts in the show, and I said to the people that I knew, I said, look, I want to submit myself, but I want to submit myself as the swing act, so that when people need a vacation or time off, I get the call to come in and do my act and you know, be gone. I said, I don't want to take your job. I just want to be the swing. And they're like, oh my God, that's a great idea. Because they're like, right now, when somebody's sick or needs a vacation, we're scrambling, and then we've got to set lights and everything else. But if they had a permanent swing act, you know, the crew would already know and be prepared, and be great if we had one. And so when you approach things properly, you get a better response. And when I say that you get a better response, I mean that those acts then went to the entertainment director and said, hey, our friend is going to submit her stuff. She wants to be the swing act in the show. She'd be perfect.
That is great. I mean, that's a great way to handle it also, because it will give business for you, but it doesn't hurt any of your friends that way. And, you know, that's, I wish more artists could be that way. And like I said, I'm not in the position, so I shouldn't really comment my own personal.
Sometimes it's hard to see, and sometimes it's hard to think those options through. I think I've just been around long enough, and I also have the people like the Thompsons behind me, you know, and I get to hear all the stories, the old stories of what review shows and stuff used to be like, to pull on a certain type of knowledge that other people don't have access to necessarily.
And Robert says, why is it that so many women in magic who go to become professionals feel the need to emphasize their sexuality over their supposed talent and skills?
So, okay. I choose to do a little bit of that. I do less of it now that I'm older, but sex sells. I live in Vegas. And Vegas is, you know, a town about sex, and it sells. People don't necessarily want to see ugly people on stage. Magic is the type of art form that, for the guys, doesn't really matter what you look like. But for the women, if you're pretty and you know, accentuate that, you do get more work. Now, one of the reasons that I say I've toned it down a little bit more is I'm not doing the review shows. Shows don't exist anymore. In fact, they're getting rid of the last one, Jubilee.
Oh, yes.
That's
unfortunate.
Right. So those shows don't exist anymore. But yeah, you know what? Even the other variety acts in those shows would sell sex. So it's a part of life, and it's a part of being a performer. But now that I'm doing more corporates, yes, there is still a certain amount of sex in my show, as far as costuming and some slightly blue colored jokes. But because it's corporate, it has to be a little more tamed down.
Sure. Yeah, it makes sense. And a lot of it depends on where you're at. I'm assuming because of Vegas, your act can be a little more adult because Vegas is an adult town. But if you are playing at the church like here in Ohio or something, of course you wouldn't want to do the same. You would tone it. You might do the same magic, but you tone down the costuming and that type of thing, and it only makes sense. And I totally 100% agree with you. Because it is true. And I mean, it's sad to say, us men, a mug like mine and still work, and the poor girls have to, and do that. And the same goes with the assistants and that way.
When I do photo shoots and stuff, my agents and stuff still expect a certain amount of sexuality in the photos. And so to deny that means that I'm, cutting off work.
Yeah.
Why would I do that?
No, you shouldn't. I personally agree. I don't think you should. I mean, I understand the question where he was getting at, but I think you answered it exactly. I want to thank you again and appreciate it. And hopefully we can chat a little more on Facebook and do that now that we've actually at least met this way and everything. And it's been a pleasure to talk to you. I'll say thank you and goodbye. And for believing.
If you make a magic convention, come and talk to me.
I will. I definitely will. I won't be shy. Anyways, I'll say thank you and goodbye.
Bye.
Yes, that was quite the fun interview. I'd like to thank Ariann for taking time out of her busy schedule to do a little chat with me. You've been watching Paul's Magical Life. I'm your host, Paul Burnham. Until next time, thank you.